This is a French model 1909 heliograph, a field heliograph. This was a relatively new development for the French military. Starting around 1874, they had developed a visual signaling device that was a combination of signal lamp and heliograph with a common optical path for both the sunlight and the lamp light using a lens. And it was a big boxy thing. But in 1909, they developed a standalone field heliograph, seen here, although the original would have been painted black, like the British Manse heliograph and the American Signal Service heliograph. It would have been painted black. Somebody thought brass would look nicer and scrubbed off all the paint, including the sighting mark here, although I can see faintly, you won't be able to see it in the video, but there is a cross scribed on here, which we'll get to. It was a shutter-based device, like the English Begbie heliotrope and the American Signal Service heliograph. And it had parallel optical paths. You sighted it using this optical path. There's a telescope here, there's an eyepiece. Actually, let me show you that. There's an eyepiece there that you look into. And here's your viewing port. The viewing port has a pair of vertical wires and a pair of horizontal wires. And it's kind of like a tic-tac-toe board. And so the center square outlined by those two pairs of wires is where you want to put your target. And then you line up the light with the target by adjusting this main mirror, which either would be supplied by the sun if you're signaling towards the sun, or you'd reflect light off this auxiliary. If the sun was behind you, you'd reflect light off this auxiliary mirror onto the main mirror and then towards your target. The light, some of the light would be picked off. I don't know that I can really show you the aperture. You see a bit of it this way. Some of the light would be picked off by this little opening here, which goes to a lens whose focal point is here. And there would have been lines, horizontal, vertical line forming a cross. The intersection of those two lines is where you wanted the point of light from focus from the lens to be, in order for the reflected sunlight to be coaxial, parallel with your sight. And if it wasn't, then you'd adjust this mirror by tilting it in elevation. This knurled knob is to tighten that joint, and in azimuth. Unlike the British Manse heliograph, it did not have vernier, elevation, and azimuth gearing and knobs. You just had to adjust it this way. So not as nice as the British system. So tweaking up, with the Manse system, one of the genius things of the Manse system is that your one hand is doing the keying, but two of the fingers can continuously adjust the elevation, while with the other hand you're continuously adjusting the azimuth, and so you can continuously signal and continuously keep the beam aligned with the target without moving your hands. Here, not so much. I guess you would use the one hand to signal and the other hand to do azimuth and elevation, but not as nice. Let's see, so we talked about the sighting optical path, and we talked about the signaling optical path. Oh, and we didn't chat too much about the modulation path. So this is a shutter. It's got a chain with a pin on it that wraps around here, gives you some radius, and signal this way. I'm constrained by this turntable. In actuality, this would be dangling in free space, and you could just pull on it. What else do we have to say? Give you a few moments to look at it. So here's, this bit here, you can either stow, there's 3 holes here. You can either stow the pin there or wrap it up and pull on it. Stow the pin there. So I guess we'll just take a look at it from various angles. So here's your front view. Here's kind of a 1/8 rotation. Here's your sighting view. You can see the 6. Well, yeah, I guess you count them all, 6 screws holding the back on the mirror case. You've got cross-hatched knurling here, which hopefully will let you turn this. Nope. I guess again that's probably just clamping. Knurling is for clamping to tighten the joint. This assembly is held on a couple screws here, a couple screws here, a screw here. Here's your auxiliary mirror, very similar 6-screw backing, and your elevation axis and your azimuth axis. Here's your shutter. It is spring-loaded. It's not just gravity pulling that down. It is spring-loaded. And back down, let it down for a second. I think that there would have also, there's a rubber block here clamped by these 2 screws, so that when you let it down, it doesn't make a lot of noise, and it doesn't hammer the mechanism. I think that on this side there was probably also a rubber block. There's a hollow there now, but I don't think they'd have wanted the metal to be clicking against this every time you pull on the shutter. I suspect there was a bumper there. If any of you have access to a unit that didn't get everything scrubbed off of it, perhaps you can let me know in the comments. The back here has 4 screws. Here's kind of a 1/8 view of everything. It unfortunately does not balance on the tripod. It's a little bit heavier on this end, which is why I support it. But this has 3 holes in it for you to put the pin and the 2 screws. One thing the manual did make a point of, and I do have, let's see, you can find on Gallica, which is the French online document repository. You can find the manuals for the 1912, the 1913, I think 1926, and maybe something from the 1930s. French manuals that have sections on this. but the 1912 manual at least made the point that for transport you could fold everything down. So the auxiliary arm goes there, and this folds down here, and I imagine you'd make sure that was good and tight. The main mirror folds down. We can rotate it in line, and this chain we can get out of the way. Put it in the socket. This was apparently transported in a bag, which doesn't seem like a lot of protection for it. One nice thing about I really like the packaging of the British Manse unit best. It's a leather case with individual loops and compartments and the like to let you protect it during transport. So a little bit simplified, and like I said, not as much attention to detail as the Manse heliograph. There were heliographs made in Italy later on and in Portugal that kind of shared this concept of having a parallel sighting tube and Sunbeam paths. The Italian one was kind of nice in that it had an optical superposition, what they call a reflex sight, that superimposed a view of your sunbeam on your sighting, which is a very nice feature. The Portuguese circa 1930 model was similar, closer to this. It didn't use a lens here. It had just a small aperture and a target similar to this for getting the beam lined up with the, and I don't remember offhand, I think it might have had a simple crosshairs in the telescope instead of the tic-tac-toe pattern. Anyway, there are a couple of these in French museums. If I'm lucky, I'll get to visit one of them someday that still have the black paint. But this is a fairly uncommon item. They were used into the late 1930s. I found an order from mid-1938 from the French military asking for bids for a minimum of over 1,000 of these units, and earlier 1930s orders for several hundred units. So I have been able to find evidence of these being purchased by the French military up to the very eve of World War II. But as far as documentation goes, that's as far as I've been able to find. There are a few period photos of signalers posing with these, a couple of postcards, a few unit photos where you can see the men with these, but not a lot of photos, and not a lot of these floating around on auction sites or eBay or the like. But again, an interesting piece of history. It wasn't just the British who used the heliographs, although they were famous for it. The French developed their heliographs at about the same time, early 1870s. So did the Italians.